Welcome to Your Mic is Hot, the podcast where we speak up, stand out, and build something that fits your life. I'm your host, Julie Eichhoff of the Online School for Voiceover, and I believe that your voice, your story, and your skills are the keys to creating a business that's as unique as you are. And let's dive in. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. This is Julie, and today we are going to be talking about a topic that is equal parts freeing and honestly, in some ways, kind of a little bit scary for creative people as well. What we're going to be talking about today is boundaries, the invisible lines that protect your time, your energy, and in some ways kind of preserve your sanity. And here's the twist. Boundaries aren't just about self-care. That's usually why we set boundaries, but they go beyond that. They're also about building a stronger brand and a better client experience. So this episode is called Boundaries Build Brands, Protecting Your Time, Energy, and Voice. So if you've ever felt like you're giving too much, you're answering emails at night, or you're constantly checking your email to respond to messages, or you're bending your own rules to please your clients or your audience, well, this episode is for you. Now, why do boundaries matter? They matter more than you think. And it's not about being rigid or unkind. Boundaries are about creating clarity. Clarity for you, so you know what's okay and what's not. When you set boundaries for yourself, then you don't have to feel bad all the time wondering if you're doing too much or if you're doing too little. When you set boundaries for yourself, then you know exactly what is right and what is not right. But boundaries also set clarity for other people so that they know how to work with you, what to expect, and how to get the best from you. Strong boundaries actually make your brand more trustworthy. Why? Because when you're clear, people feel safe and they know where they stand. So, for example, if you are a voice artist and you are always checking your email, looking for client text messages or email messages at all hours of the day and night, and when they come in with a request for an edit, you're up at midnight making edits, you're handling calls on weekends, whatever it is, you start to feel burnt out and a little bit resentful. Now, the way to shift this is to simply set office hours. Decide what hours you are going to work, what hours you are going to check your messages, and what hours you are going to record and edit. Add that information to your email signature so that all of your clients know when you are available. And guess what? Your clients will appreciate that. They won't complain, they will understand, and they will respect you. You will get your weekends back, you'll get your overnights back, and your clients will know what they can expect from you as well. So boundaries don't have to be barriers. They're guidelines for mutual respect, and people are generally happy to abide by them if they know about them. Now let's talk about where creative entrepreneurs tend to lose their boundaries. This is where it gets real. Most of us fall into many of the same traps. For example, scope creep. A client hires you for one thing and then slowly starts to ask for just one more little tweak. This can happen a lot as a voice artist where you have a client who sends you a script and you record it, and generally you agree that, you'll give them a free round of pickups, you're going to fix things if you pronounce something wrong or they need a minor little tweak. And then you do that, but then they come back and say, oh, hey, we'd like you to rephrase this one sentence. And then the next day they come back, oh, hey, can you redo that sentence? And it really starts to creep beyond what you had already agreed to. And that's where it starts to feel uncomfortable, and you might even feel resentful towards that client. So scope creep is something that can easily happen to all of us. Another one is simply being available 24/7. It's easy to do because we have our phones with us. We can constantly be checking messages and texts and things like that. Because you want to be there for your clients. You want to be responsive and helpful, and you don't want them to turn to somebody else. But when it starts to creep into, you are checking your phone and responding to things 24/7, that's a creep that you don't want to get into for very long because you start to feel like you never have time off from work. Another type of way to lose your boundary is to offer discounts all the time and do favors for people. There certainly are times when you want to do things complimentary for people, or you do want to offer a discount for one reason or another. But when you keep lowering your rates or saying yes to free work because you don't want to lose opportunities, well, then it's time to reevaluate. These discounts and these favors should be few and far between, and they really should be special in nature. So if you find yourself lowering your prices and doing these favors all the time, that's a red flag. And then finally, content overwhelm. This is for my bloggers and those who are on social media. Do you feel like you owe your audience something constantly, like you constantly need to be posting things and sending out emails, even when you're exhausted? Well, that too is another red flag. Do any of those sound familiar to you or something similar to that? Something that just kind of eats at you and you know it's getting out of control? Well, it's time to set boundaries because boundaries aren't just for clients. They're for you too. They're both ways. Deciding when to log off, when to stop editing, when enough is enough. And here's an interesting part about boundaries is that they can actually become a part of your brand. When you honor your energy and you show up as your best self, you do that when your boundaries have been honored and you have energy, and it makes your work better. Boundaries are a part of your brand when you communicate it clearly. Then you build trust. And when you set expectations up front, you reduce drama later. That happens a lot, again, in voiceover work, where people come in and they ask for a few more revisions that really aren't a part of what you've already agreed upon. So set your expectations very clearly up front, and that will reduce some of the drama later on. All right, so to see examples of this in motion, let's say there is a podcaster out there. This podcaster has decided her boundary is going to be that she is only going to record podcast episodes 2 days a month. That's it. She batches everything and tells guests up front that she only records on Tuesdays and Thursdays. She's not being inflexible. She's simply protecting her flow. All right. So yeah, she still has guests on her podcast, but they're going to abide by her boundaries. They're going to record on a Tuesday or a Thursday, and she's only doing it 2 days a month. So you're going to have to adjust your schedule to make that work. Because of that, she's never scrambling, and her episodes go out on time every week. That reliability, where her listeners know her episodes are always going to come out, well, that's part of her brand. Boundaries create consistency, and consistency builds credibility. Okay, so now let's get practical. How do you actually say these boundaries without sounding harsh? Here's a few sort of plug-and-play scripts that you can borrow. When someone asks for free work, just say, I would love to support you, and I do that through my paid services. Here's a link to learn more. So you're immediately not giving in. You're supporting them by offering them a great product that can help them. In this case, you may not do the work for free. And again, like I said before, if you do offer a discount, if you do something for free, it should be very special and it should be very infrequent. Your time is money and you are worth it. It's okay to support people when you really feel it's important. Go ahead and do that. But if you constantly have people asking you to do work for less money, you need to draw a line in the sand. Okay, when a client texts you after hours, you can simply say, hey, thanks for reaching out, saw your message, and I'll get back to you during my office hours tomorrow. So it is still good to let them know you saw the message, right? But also let them know that these aren't the hours when you're actually going to be doing the work that they're asking you to do. So I'll repeat that. Thanks for reaching out. I saw your message. I'll get back to you during my office hours tomorrow. This works great in email as well. You can set up an autoresponder, one that turns on, at 5 p.m. if that's the end of your workday, and it can stay on until 8 a.m. when you start your workday. And it simply says, got your message. Thanks. I'll be getting back to you during my office hours. I have one that goes out that says, hey, I work in the central time zone. So if you're in a completely different time zone, it may seem like it's 8 to 5 to you, but to me, it's 7 p.m. at night, and I may not get this message right away. In addition to that, I offer them a lot of support. So I say, if you are emailing me because you have problems logging in, here's some solutions to that. Or if you're emailing me because you have a question about this or that, I offer those answers right there in that autoresponder. So I'm still helping people who email me with many of the common reasons that they're emailing me after hours. But I also let them know that I may not be responding super quick right now because it's not my normal working hours, and I will get back to them. So it's helpful to them and it's helpful to me. Okay, another time, maybe you need to say no to extra work. And a great way to respond to that is simply to say, that's outside the original scope we agreed on. I'm happy to add it. And here's what that would look like and cost. So you're saying, yes, I can do this extra work that you're adding on, but it is outside of our original agreement. And here's how much that will cost. And here's when I will get it to you. So simply be professional, lay it out, and just be specific. Tell them what they can expect. You'll sound professional and you'll be living by your boundaries. Okay, how about when you need to pause your content creation just for your own mental health? You can simply say, I'm taking a short break to recharge so I can come back with fresh ideas. Thanks for sticking around, and I can't wait to share what's next. How about that? Super simple. I'm taking a short break to recharge, and I'll come back with fresh ideas. Thanks for sticking around. I can't wait to share what's next. Hey, if I'm on the receiving end of that, I respect that, and I can't wait to see what they post next, whenever that will be. Okay, you can see how these aren't walls. They're not being harsh. They're bridges. They keep the relationship intact while honoring your needs and being very clear. So again, let's talk about real-life examples because boundaries do look different for everyone. If you are a coach I know only checks her client messages twice a day. Her clients know to expect that. There's no midnight replies, no burnout. So as a coach, you could set a boundary that says, I'm only going to check my email at 11 a.m. and at 4:30 p.m. And then you aren't on your phone all day long, every day, checking things. You've set clear boundaries for yourself and for your clients. All right, maybe you're a podcast editor and a client is always getting a hold of you for some urgent edits to latest episodes. But you've set up a boundary that says you have a 72-hour turnaround period. So whenever a request for an edit comes in, you have 72 hours to turn that around. It's in your welcome email sequence. It's in your contract with this person. When your clients know that, they respect that and they work with it. And then you can always deliver on time. As a voice artist, another example would be, maybe as a part of your contract with your client, you always include 2 free revisions, and that's just worked into the pricing. Anything extra costs more. Just make sure and explain that up front. Be clear, be upfront, let them know how much extra edits will be, how much extra revisions will be. Everybody can work within the boundaries if they know what they are. These boundaries don't repel clients. They actually attract better ones, professional ones. Okay, now it's time for your micro challenge this week. I would like you to choose one area where right now you are feeling drained or resentful. And I think that is such an important feeling. When you start to feel resentful towards a client, ask yourself, what are they doing to you to make you feel that way? What boundary do you need to set so that you don't feel that way? That's usually where you need a boundary. It's when you start to feel really drained or really resentful. So ask yourself the question, what is bugging you right now? What would make it feel better? And how can you communicate that clearly? Write down one simple boundary statement and commit to practicing it this week. So for example, I'm only going to check client messages during business hours, or I don't discount my rates anymore. It's a small shift, but it can be a big impact. But it's really important you figure out how you're going to communicate that to your clients. So here's what I want you to take away from today. Boundaries are self-care. No doubt they are, but they're also brand care. They help you stay creative, sane, and serve better. They make you more trustworthy, more professional, and in some ways, more magnetic. So give yourself permission to protect your time, your energy, and your voice. Your best work depends on it. Remember, your mic is hot. Let's make sure your boundaries are too. And just in case, if you have interest in becoming a voice artist, please check out my free mini course, Intro to Voiceovers. You'll find a link to it in the show notes. It's a Q&A session that should help answer all those questions you have going on in your head, wondering how you could make it happen. So find the show notes, check out the link for the free mini course, Intro to Voiceover. Thanks for tuning in to Your Mic is Hot. If today's episode got you thinking, dreaming, or planning, share it with a friend, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Remember, your mic is hot. The world's waiting. Speak up, stand out, and build something that fits your life.